All right, here we go. Moon has a lot more water than once thought, studies show. Did they think there was water on the moon? So apparently there's studies now, they say now there's water. Where haven't they found water? Didn't they pretend to find water on Mars? Didn't they say there's water in Venus? There's water everywhere. I don't know. Well, let's just our old logical brain here. We'll just see what they got. Amazing scientific discovery. Changes
Scientists may have
humanity as we
unlocked
know
some
it.
of the secrets hidden within the dark side of the moon.
Always the dark
They recently
side.
found ice in dark moon craters, but they also found water in the unlikeliest of places. Kit Doe from our CBS station in San Francisco explains.
Yes, ice has been found in dark moon craters, but what about
Has it?
water in the bright parts of the lunar surface, where temperatures can reach 260 degrees Fahrenheit? Wouldn't the water just boil off and vaporize?
I think.
Enter SOFIA, short for
SOFIA.
Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy. Basically, a 747 operated
747.
by NASA Ames with a high-powered telescope that
That's a 747 with a telescope. Ain't we got one of them things up there called a Hubble? Do you think, guys, that maybe this is your Hubble? Do you think for a second, maybe, that your thing up there supposedly in space, this Coke can with tinfoil on it, that supposedly hasn't had a problem since 1990 when they launched it. You think that maybe that's just a 747 with a telescope on it? Kind of thinking like maybe, yeah. Like when you think about this thing being 30 years old and the kind of technology and the kind of computer systems it has on it, what sort of computer systems today would we even have to talk to it? Now, I realize this is space technology that never breaks, all right? Never breaks. But the stuff we have on the ground does succumb to the second law of thermodynamics, and it does eventually break down. So I'm curious what we have today that would actually talk to something that's 30 years old, floating around in the space, and how it would still be working, with batteries and electronics. And I realize, in space, that it's a lot nicer atmosphere, a lot nicer environment than what we have on Earth, being that it's plus 250 degrees to minus 250 degrees, so they say, depending on whether or not you're in the sun or not. But obviously that's going to preserve this telescope for 30 years. But see, down here on Earth, we can't keep things going that long. So we've refreshed our computers. We get a new Apple iPhone every year. But it's still up there. Trust me, guys, it's not a 747. That's not the Hubble telescope. It's not.
looks out the rear hatch. The jet flies at 45,000 feet where the air is crystal clear. Normally, SOFIA looks deep into space for distant nebulas, galaxies, and black holes, but NASA Ames got the idea to point the telescope at the moon.
Seems a little cheaper, doesn't it, than sending up a Hubble telescope? If they can do all that with just a 747. You know, it also kind of seems like that technology would have been available in the 1950s and 1960s to just put a big telescope on a jet.
Right here at the so-called Clavius crater. Their findings were published today in the journal Nature Astronomy, titled Molecular Water Detected on Sunlit Moon by SOFIA.
Okay.
Nassim Rangwala at
So they're
NASA
saying they
Ames.
detected it in the sun. Now, we want to explain something here about water. It's not the temperature in the water evaporating that's really the problem. See, you're supposed to be in zero pressure. It's supposed to be a perfect vacuum. So you have this whole problem of water boiling when you have no vacuum. It boils instantaneously. So if ever there is a point between it being ice and it being water, it goes poof. So you have to explain to me now how in the world something that does not have an atmosphere open to a perfect vacuum of space is going to have water anywhere. Or could they just be telling lies? I wonder if they could just be telling lies. I wonder. So here's your Sophia telescope, 747, entered service about 15 years ago. Yeah, there's your Hubble, guys. There's your Hubble. Let's take a look at what we have here. Water molecules have been directly detected. Now, here's the question also that I have. Now, we lost the technology to go back to the moon conveniently. But here's the real question is, we have Mars rovers and Venus rovers. Why don't we have a robot that runs around on the moon? Couldn't the robot tell us if there's water there? Oh, we don't have a robot on the moon. Why not? Probably because they don't want to rebuild the set. People have already seen the moon. They don't want to rebuild the set. We'll go to Mars. We'll go to all these places that nobody can possibly ever even visualize or even see. We're not going to go to the moon, though. So we put something on the moon, then people might actually be able to prove that it's not there. This is exciting because the expectation is that any water present on the sunlit surface of the moon would not survive a lunar day. Doesn't matter because there's no atmosphere. It doesn't matter how hot it is. Discovery reveals that water might be distributed across the lunar surface, not limited to the cold shadow places near the lunar poles. With the amount of water detected by the Airborne Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, is small Sahara Desert 100 times wetter, NASA said in a statement. These liars. The discovery will add impetus to the agency's plans to launch rovers. Gee, you think they would have done that by now? What it is we need some money. Let's find something. Every single time they come out with an article. NASA needs money. Let's publish an article. Somebody quick write something up in a document that we can give to Congress to justify our budget. That's all it is every single time. Complete con game. The program's goal, in part, is to scout out the availability of ice in shadowed craters. Well, didn't they already see it with the Sophia telescope? Didn't they always prove? I mean, up here it says studies show. Studies show. The experts said. What more do you need? Right. What more do you need? We know that water exists in some of the darkest and coldest locations on the moon, inside craters that have never seen sunlight. How do they know that? So anyways, here's your Hubble telescope. There you go. There you go. There's your Hubble. Nothing very complicated. Totally could have done this back in the 50s and 60s. Imagine that. All of these wonderful technology doodads and super weapons and all of this stuff. It turns out when you get down to the bottom of it, technology has pretty much stayed the same. Computers have gotten smaller. That's about it. Semiconductors. Everything else is what it is. Your super weapons in the sky and all this stuff and your satellites, they're probably big magnifying glasses. How do you know that? Because big magnifying glasses in the sky exist. Declassified. All of your satellites. This is what it comes down to. A 747 riding around with a telescope in it. It's not this. This is nonsense. This is a picture of a high altitude balloon put in and skewed the image to give it a curve to it, and then a superimposed satellite. How do you know? How do you know, Max, that this is a photoshopped superimposed satellite? What took the picture of the Hubble, guys? What took the picture of the Hubble? All nonsense, all nonsense. Water pressure and boiling points. Look it up, guys. Look it up. And with that, ponder to yourself. Now, look at, anytime they think about super weapons and super, biological weapons. Oh, we have treaties against biological weapons and these things and these super viruses. None of that exists, guys. None of that exists. It's all just a fear game. Where have we ever seen any of this stuff ever happen? We had mustard gas, which is pesticide. All right? Agent Orange, which is pesticide. That's what you get. That's what you got. So, anyways, hope you all enjoy. We're trying out our new system here and our new mic. And, yeah, there we go. Water on the moon, guys.